Hi everyone, Catherine here from Inkfinger Cat, and I'm back with the final for 2025 Christmas in July. And today I went with Santa as the main theme. Is that the right word? Yeah, theme. And I chose to use some really old Papermania. I'm going to call them papers, but actually it's a fabric. It's a fabric that's been attached to some cardstock. And that's how it came in the kit, and I've never really got on with using these. They have a lovely texture to them, but they're sort of like a creamy colour rather than a white, and yeah, I've just never really got round to using much of them. So I've got quite a few of them left, so I thought, right, I'm going to just cut into them, do something. But you'll see here I struggled a little bit cutting them because obviously the fibres are quite tough. But I'm determined I will get them used up at some point soon. Hopefully in the next year, these will all be out of my stash. Because I really like the texture of them. I don't love using them because they're just a bit weird to work with. So I decided to create 3 cards and use a bit of this fabric-y stuff on each of them. When I say a bit of them, sorry, a bit of each of the 3 patterns on each of them, but obviously they all look a bit different. You absolutely need to use wet glue to adhere them because even though the back is cardstock, obviously the front is a fabric-y kind of colour. And then because I was sort of like stacking them up, I did have to put some little scraps behind just so that it wouldn't sag and go a bit weird. And then stuck them underneath the acrylic blocks when they were drying just to make sure that they stayed nice and still. And they dried okay. So the 3 patterns, well, there's actually 4 patterns of the cardstocky paper stuff. So I probably should have made 4 cards, but there you go. There's this sort of Nordic heart. There's the one with the tree and the snowflakes that's in the background there. And then there's 2 sort of like patterns. One's a stitched stripe and the other one's more of a sort of like well, it's lots of little hearts, but going round in sort of squares. I hope that makes sense. I was just checking the colour of the cardstock that I've picked out, which is real red, to make sure that that was all right. And then I wasn't quite sure whether to go for Vintage Santa or Avery Elle Funky Santa, and I decided on Vintage Santa. And I decided to stamp both images because I wasn't entirely sure which one I wanted to use, so both the big standing one and the Santa head one, and I stamped them all. How many times did I do it? 6 times in total, and I did colour all of them, but obviously I'm only using 3 images in terms of the 3 cards that I do. I was struggling a little bit because it's quite, the diamond press stamps, which is what these stamps are a little bit on the thin side for my Tim Holtz stamp platform. I have still yet to use my new stamp wheel. I decided not to try and do that in the middle of Christmas in July still. I just wanted to get this done and dusted before I start experimenting with my stamp wheel. So for the stamp platform, they're a little bit thin, so I just used a little bit of extra cardstock underneath to kind of bulk it up a little bit, and then it stamped well. I did stamp them several times anyway because my Memento ink isn't the darkest, and I just wanted to make sure that it got a nice black image, and then it was a case of colouring in. So we do speed this up here. I think we go to about 8 times the speed. Used a couple of colours for the face elements and tried, where possible, to kind of do the pick up the pen once thing. I then used a couple of different cool greys in order to do the beard and the fluff on the Santa suit, you know, the bits around his hat, the bits around his lovely big coat. When you're doing white areas, you still want some shade in, so that's why I used the cool grey. I think I used cool grey 1 and cool grey 2. I didn't go any darker than that with them. And I pretty much just followed where the shade would be in terms of the edges, or where there was some, you know, some line marks that gave me the indication of where it would be. Then I did 2 different colours of brown for the sack, and again just pretty much followed the outline and the edges and where the shading marks were in order to do the sack. So there was 2 different colours of brown. I can't remember the colours, I'm really sorry. And I've since put the pens away, so I can't remember which ones they were. Yeah, I can't remember, I'm really sorry. And then I did one red using my Pro markers for Santa's hat. And then I thought, oh, no, I really want shading. And I hadn't really got another red that was the right red in the Pro markers. So I pulled out at that point the dark cherry cobbler and the light cherry cobbler. Added the shading to his hat on the one on the head, and then on this one I did the cherry cobbler on his coat in the dark and the light, and then decided no, that's too winey coloured. So what to do next? So for his hat I went in and did the same thing on all 3 of them as I'd done on the original, so using that Pro marker red and the dark cherry cobbler for the shading. But then I went and grabbed the light and the dark real red and did the other 2 standing Santas using those instead. And it was a better colour match, and I was much happier with that. So even though I've got off Santa here who's looking a little bit more purpley coloured, I don't end up using him in the end anyway. He's just to one side, and he'll get used on another project at some point where there isn't perhaps as much red as a focus. And so it works better, and it doesn't really matter that it's not the right colour of red. I think it's really important to test out these things, and this is why I always stamp multiples of images, even if I know I'm only needing 3. I've ended up with 6. Yes, I can use them again on other projects, but also I've had that chance to do a bit of a colour test. If I'd have only stamped him the 3 times and then I'd started off with the cherry cobbler, I would have been lacking an image, or an image that just doesn't work right. So the diamond press stamps come with coordinating dies for some of the image, I think most of the images, but not all of the sentiments. And this is me deciding what to do. And then because obviously one of them was the wrong colour, I did end up using the Santa head for one, and the standing Santa I really liked for the other 2. Now, I'm deciding what to do in terms of sentiment, and there is this ho, 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 and that just seems like the perfect sentiment for Santa. And he does have a coordinating die, I was just checking. I do end up only using it the once on my card, because as I stamped it and then I went to die cut it, the die cutting of the first one went fine, but the other 2 was just slightly off. So I thought, well, instead I'll just use it to stack. But obviously I'm going to show you the die cutting of all 3. But yeah, this one just was slightly off, and so was the final one. Not quite as bad as the second one, but it just wasn't right. And I also thought it didn't really stand out on the card either. So yeah, I just used those 3 that I have die cut to stack. And then I think, wow, do you know what? Let's just make it I then decided I really wanted him to be stacked up as well. So just for the one where he was on the head, I just wanted him to have a bit of dimension too, and I like that. But then I thought I'd make my life a little bit easier. Go and grab one of those sentiments that's already stamped and die cut. Perfect. And the Make It Merry and the Joy to the World, I think, work quite well. It's actually quite a nice font. It works with these slightly vintagey images. These waffle flower sentiments, and I thought, yeah, they'll be fine. So that real red cardstock I grabbed out, I made some card blanks out of it. Had to go and grab another sheet, of course, because I have made 3 cards, not 2. So cut myself another card blank, and now I'm just going to adhere everything together. Again, because it's onto that fabricy paper, I am using wet glue rather than my tape runner. Probably should have done this in all cases and just done the background down first before I stuck my Santa on, because it's a lot easier to do it that way. But I did it all the wrong way, and at this point I've completely forgotten to even stick it down, and I just stick it straight onto the thing. I've not even stuck the background down, but I realise that in a minute. because they are real red and therefore a darker coloured cardstock. For the card blank, I am just cutting myself a little panel to go on the inside for each of them, and I just layer it up so that it's central. I don't really worry about how well adhered that that inside panel is, and that's when I've realised I haven't actually glued down that top one. Did use a bit of tape run and then remembered, oh, it's a bit shiny this, it might not work so well. And then decided no extra gems or anything like that, because it is that fabricy paper. I think that it's nice to have that as the sort of focal point, is all of that texture going on. And there we go, we have finished Christmas in July. Whoop whoop. So thank you for all of those who have joined me. I am going to do a final post, just run through everything I've made, because I've kept them all off to one side as I've been making, with the view to do one video showing you everything we've made during Christmas in July. But I thank you for all of those new subscribers. Thank you for all the people who've left me comments. I'd love to have more comments. It's always lovely to chat with people. A special call out to both Brenda and Jill, who have really made the effort to make lots of comments during the month, and it's been really appreciated getting to know you. Also, those that have joined my Facebook group, hi to you and thank you for that. So please do like, subscribe to see more. There will be more videos. They won't be daily, but there will be more videos coming up. Don't know when, don't know what, but there will be. So please do subscribe to see more. Hit the notification bell to be informed. Really important now that they're not going to be daily videos, for when I have posted a new video. And once again, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye bye.